Welcome, and thank you for joining us today for this online information session on the preferred option for the Southern Link Road corridor. My name is Rebecca, and I'm the Senior Manager within Community in Place for Western Parkland City. With me today is Matt and Ed from the project team. Matt is the Senior Project Development Manager and Ed, the Deputy Director of Project Development. And we're here to provide more information on the Southern Link Road preferred corridor. And we will also be answering your questions. So I'd like to begin today's proceedings by acknowledging the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation as the traditional custodians of the land on which we're presenting from today, and all the various lands that people are attending from. We also acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people participating in this information session. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and recognise and celebrate the diversity of Aboriginal peoples and their ongoing cultures and connections to the land. The New South Wales Government is proposing a new 7.5 kilometre road corridor to support the current and future employment growth in the Western Sydney employment area. This is known as Southern Link Road. Transport for New South Wales has developed a preferred alignment for the road corridor and is seeking your feedback. We have the preferred option displayed for community consultation until Friday the 16th of September. Today, we're going to provide you with some background regarding the project and to answer your questions. Questions raised today will not form part of the official submissions for the project, but provide you with further clarification to support your official submission. You can submit your submission via email, letter, or via the interactive portal. Should you have any specific questions regarding impacts to individual properties, please contact us and we'll discuss these with the property owners. Before we start, I want to note that this web-based event is replacing the usual community drop-in information session. Comments made in this forum do not substitute as an official statement from Transport for New South Wales or the New South Wales Government. For an official statement regarding this project, please contact us via the email southernlinkroad@transport.nsw.gov.au. Please also be aware that this online community information session will be recorded in line with the Transport for New South Wales information and document management policies. Now, to get the session started, I'd like to show you a video that provides information about the preferred alignment for Southern Link Road.
The New South Wales Government is proposing a new 7.5 kilometre road to facilitate economic growth for the rising population in the Western Sydney region. The project will help establish a robust transport network within the region, which will encourage development and unlock employment opportunities, growing Western Sydney into the future. The Southern Link Road is a proposed link between Mamre Road and Walgrove Road, which caters for increases in regional traffic, providing safer, more reliable connectivity. At the west end of the works, Southern Link Road will integrate with Mamre Road parallel to Bakers Lane, with connections to local roadways. Tracking north, the proposed alignment will join to the Burleigh Road corridor at Oakdale Close intersection. Previous designs had Southern Link Road tracking north again to parallel the Water New South Wales pipeline, but the latest, more efficient design, which achieves a number of important benefits, has the alignment proceeding straight to Chandos Road before facilitating the necessary connections to the M7 motorway via Horsley Drive and Walgrove Road. This new design has a number of important improvements. Transport for New South Wales is committed to continuously improving transport networks to empower local communities and foster economic growth. For more information on the Southern Link roadworks, visit our website.
Ed, I might ask now if you can build on that and provide us an overview of the project and the current status.
Thanks, Beck. So today we're talking about a very important East-West Road corridor. We're talking about a link that is vital for the continued development of Western Sydney. As you've seen from today's video presentation, we're talking about the planning for a new link between Mamre Road and Walgrove Road. The reason for the planning being underway now is it's imperative that we support the current and future employment growth in the Western Sydney employment area. Local residents and long-term residents and business operators regularly tell us how much they've seen change in their area, and that will continue to occur. Transport for New South Wales is planning the Southern Link Road now in order to support the jobs that are coming and to sustain the prosperity in the Western Sydney employment area Mamre Road precinct. That continued development is going to increase the demand on the road network, so Transport is underway with planning for the additional capacity that's required. Next slide, please. I think it's really important at this time to note that the design for the Southern Link Road caters for pedestrians, cyclists and public transport in terms of accessibility, connectivity, safety and amenity. The way that the design does this is it includes walking and cycling paths that are separate from the road lanes. The design also ensures that Transport is planning a road that caters for buses, for trucks and for private vehicles. In 2014, the Department of Planning published the Southern Link Road Network Options and Refinement Report. Since then, proposals for the surrounding area have evolved, and in 2020 there was a significant rezoning of the Mamre Road precinct with over 800 hectares of land released for industrial development. As a result, Transport for New South Wales has continued to investigate the best alignment for the Southern Link Road, and those ongoing investigations and planning has led to this preferred alignment. As part of the current community consultation, we draw your attention to the options report that has been published. This report outlines the investigation and planning that has led to the preferred alignment. Matt will be speaking about this in more detail. Although we are in the early stages of planning, now is the time to have your say or to ask questions. I think it's really important to note that our officers have been out to directly notify owners, and we sincerely acknowledge this is a challenging time for people with an interest in the properties in the area. We are available to discuss your individual circumstances. As community members would expect for a project of this scale, 7.5 kilometres, further design and environmental assessment is required. That means there'll be ongoing community consultation. And in our experience, feedback always improves both the design and the delivery outcomes that we all want to see. So we welcome your feedback. Details on how to have your say will be highlighted later in this presentation. The final point I'd make is this project is subject to funding, and as is normal for a project of this scale, Transport for New South Wales, and in line with Treasury requirements, prepares a detailed business case for government consideration. This business case will be used to inform investment decisions, so at this stage, there is no time frame for construction.
Thanks for that, Ed. Now, Matt, I might pass over to you to tell us why did we choose this as our preferred option?
Yeah, thanks, Beck. So why was the preferred option chosen? The first point I would like to make was there were numerous specialists within Transport consulted with to confirm the preferred option. As mentioned by Ed, the detailed reasons are outlined in the preferred options report available on our project website. I believe the link is in the chat at the moment, and the address is newsouthwalesroads.work/Southern Link Road. The project team over a number of years identified benefits and constraints through the development of technical studies and discussions with key stakeholders. The benefits and constraints considered include future traffic volumes, traffic movement efficiencies, property impacts, the safety challenges of the road corridor, environmental impacts, utility relocation requirements, future access requirements, public transport opportunities, economic impacts, design standards for new roads, and urban design requirements. These benefits and constraints were used to inform the multi-criteria analysis, and the preferred road alignment was chosen. This alignment is also referred to as Stage 2B, especially in the options report, and will continue directly east along Burleigh Road corridor from Old Walgrove Road to create a future connection with Chandos Road at Walgrove Road. And it will provide a better future transport access and help support future development in the area. The new alignment impacts property owners, as Ed mentioned, and all affected property owners have been contacted directly by Transport. So what are the next steps for us? All the relevant information for the project is available on our website, including an interactive portal and a video that we showed earlier. The preferred option is on display from the 25th of August until the 16th of September, and we encourage you all to provide feedback on this important project. Your feedback can be received via the project interactive portal, via email, in writing, or by phone. At the end of the consultation period, we will summarise comments received and publish our responses in a community consultation report. The report will be available on the project website. If you submit feedback, we will let you know directly when the report is available. We will continue to keep the community members and other stakeholders informed of the project progress as the project progresses. So thank you all, and I'll hand over to Beck.
Excellent. Thanks for all that information, Matt and Ned. Now, since we released the preferred option, we have received a few questions from the community, and I can also see some questions coming in through the Q&A section on the Teams meeting. So please use that forum to raise your questions, and we will endeavour to get to them today. But please also remember, these questions do not form an official submission to the project, and we really want to hear from you. We really want your feedback. So please write, email, or lodge a comment on the interactive portal. We will be releasing a submissions report, as Matt has spoken about, and we look forward to doing that. So, getting into the questions. Now, the first one I've got here, as I said at the beginning, we can't talk about direct impacts to properties because we need to speak to property owners direct. But there is a question that is here that talks about access on the western side of Burleigh Road. So, Matt, are you able just to reconfirm where Southern Link will be going and what the impact will be for Burleigh Road?
Yeah, thanks, Beck. So Southern Link Road runs along the existing Burleigh Road corridor between Old Walgrove Road and Arundel Road. And there are a number of accesses directly onto Burleigh Road to private properties. What we're intending to do is to try and provide safe ingress and egress to those properties through developing the design. And some of the ways that we're looking to do that is to provide service roads alongside Southern Link Road, so there's no direct access straight onto what will become a very busy road in the future. These designs are at the early stages of development, and we will continue to develop those as we continue to develop the project. Thank you.
Not a problem. Ed, I've got a question for you. So, question around when will Southern Link Road be built? Can you just re-clarify for us the steps that we need to go through, where we're at currently, and what are the future steps for the project?
Thanks, Beck, and a really good question. So where we're at in terms of the project at the moment, we are, as Matt's saying, we're preparing a design, we're preparing an environmental assessment. That's a little bit like needing to go through the process of preparing a development application when you're thinking about building a home or making extensions. So we're going through that design process. It's very, very important that we talk to local business operators, to homeowners, to utility authorities and other stakeholders in the area. And then what we'd invite everyone to do who's on the call is please register for updates from the project.
Yep.
And the reason for doing that is we'll prepare our environmental impact assessment and then we'll display that for formal comment. That's really important because obviously that's required so that there's legal authority to be able to build a road. In addition to that, what we also do is we look at the design, we look at what are the opportunities that investing in the construction of the Southern Link Road would provide to the local area and to the state of New South Wales, and we present those credentials within a business case to government. That hasn't happened yet, but what governments do is they look at those business cases in line with Treasury requirements and they make decisions around funding decisions. I think it's worth noting that there's obviously a lot of transport construction in the wider area at the moment. Many people have seen the work that's happening at the Roper Road connection to the M4 or the widening of the Northern Road, let's say. All of those projects have been through the same level of scrutiny and planning, and it does take some time for these things to happen. But I'd just like to reiterate how important it is now to have your say. The earlier that we get your questions, your comments, the more opportunity there is to consider that as part of making sure that we put the best design forward.
Excellent. And as Ed said, the best way to stay informed is to actually register to receive email updates about the project as it moves through the stages. To register for email updates, please email us at southernlinkroad@transport.nsw.gov.au. It's the same email address to lodge your submission for this preferred option. Okay, I've got a question here from Bob, and I'm going to pass this one to you, Matt. Bob actually says the 2014 options refinement report identified the best option. Why has this changed for stage 2?
Yeah, thanks, Beck. And look, back in 2014, you know, there was a certain amount of development that had occurred, and mainly north of the Water New South Wales pipeline at that stage. Since then, there's been a lot of change south of the Water New South Wales pipeline with proposal that Gascorp's put in for the development of their site. We've also had discussions with Water New South Wales about impacts to their corridor, their water corridor, supplying water from Warragamba Dam to Prospect Reservoir. We've also had a look at the flooding impacts along Reedy Creek and to understand the types of structures we would need to build along that original alignment. And we've also, since then, there's also been a confirmation of the Western Sydney Freight Line that crosses the alignment. So that creates a number of challenges from an engineering perspective. So there are quite a number of reasons why we decided to revisit the design, and they have also contributed to obviously the change in the design.
Not a problem. Matt, you talked about the Western Sydney employment lands, and David's made the comment, part of the road goes through semi-rural lands, not employment lands. Does this mean that these lands are going to be rezoned to employment lands?
No, it doesn't, first of all, and that is not a decision that the Transport will make. That is a decision for you know, organisations such as Department of Planning and Environment and the local council to look at. What we're looking at is more around the traffic efficiency and how we can move people from A to B most efficiently. Not only that, but we also look at the impacts that new road corridor will provide on the local community as well.
Yep. So building on that, you talked about that we work in conjunction with Department of Planning and Environment. There is a question that's coming through. Have we developed this in consultation with Council?
So yes, we have, Beck. We've been in discussions with both Penrith City Council on the western side of the alignment and Fairfield City Council on the eastern side of the alignment. And more broadly, we've developed a road network strategy which includes Blacktown City Council as well.
Excellent. And before I pass over to Ed, one last one for you, Matt. You talked about Gascorp Momentum and about their development that's recently been approved. The question is, seems this could be the reason for the change. Did this have any part to play in the new road proposal?
So look, I mentioned that Gascorp, we had to review that proposal and all aspects of change in the area we considered as part of reviewing the design. So I must say that, you know, all development, but it wasn't the key decision or the key reason, I should say, as to why we made that change.
Not a problem. Promised I was coming back to you, Ed. So will the community be advised if the budget is not approved for this project?
So the best way for the community to be advised is to register for project updates. I know some members of the public feel like these things are very slow. And I guess one of the things that I'd reflect on is how much change local residents have witnessed over the last 5 years, 10 years and 20 years. One only has to drive along Elizabeth Drive heading out towards the Northern Road to see the massive development for the airport. One only has to think about the amount of growth that's occurred in Erskine Park. So what we're talking about here is planning for not just the next 1 or 2 years. This is really a decision around the next 100 years. And so, as Matt was saying, it is a balance in terms of considerations. So we'll put that information ahead of government. One of the things that government needs to consider is obviously the growth of development. No one has a crystal ball. Sometimes economic development can move ahead of projections, sometimes it can be slower. But if you register for those project updates, that's the best way to find out about things.
Yep, thank you. And that's one of the things that we try and do is we are installing the network for the growth of the area, and we work with Department of Planning, we work with the councils, we work with other stakeholders and developers in the area to make sure that we do have that road network in place. So Matt, do you estimate when the designs will be complete and when the business case will be submitted? So that's come from John.
Well, we need to firstly confirm that the preferred option is the option that we want to proceed with, and that is why we're out with the community at the moment to gather the feedback that will then inform the next stage of design of the project. So I can't give you a clear time frame, but what I will say is that we want to make sure that we consult before we start developing the design and the environmental assessment further.
And that leads on to David's question. So David's asked, have noise and other impacts on residents of Horsley Park been investigated? And what solutions have been put forward to reduce adverse impacts on residents?
Yeah, so look, we know that noise will play a part in the future planning for this corridor, and the noise impact assessment will be developed when we start going through concept design and to inform the environmental assessment. There are a number of ways that we can mitigate against noise, and we don't know the details of what that assessment is going to say yet, but some of the things we have employed in the past to mitigate against noise include noise walls at property architectural treatments, noise berms, so landscape berms. So they're the types of things that we will be looking at to try and mitigate against the noise impacts of the new road corridor.
Becky, could I also just add a point? It's often something that is a very strong interest to the community in terms of the approach that Transport takes to assess what is the amount of background noise before and after development. And I invite the community member. We've got a lot of information online at the moment, which is for the proposed widening and upgrade of Memory Road Stage 1. And so that's a great resource if you want to look at it and just put it into your search engine, Memory Road upgrade between M4 and Erskine Park Road. And you can see what we do in terms of monitoring background noise and then looking at our forecasts in terms of looking at the road design, looking at the types of vehicles, the volume of vehicles to make that assessment about noise impact.
Yep, and when we go out with that noise impact assessment, that will be part of the environmental factors. And yet again, we will be putting that out and seeking community feedback on that report.
That's right.
Well.
So that's a legally governed process, and we want to make sure that community members know that that's coming up. And obviously your council and other representatives will really scrutinise that assessment for what we've come up with.
Yeah, so this is not the last time you're going to hear from us regarding Southern Link Road. Right. This is an ongoing process. As we said, register for emails. Now I can see Bob's actually questioned and said that I didn't ask his question in the fullness previously. So Matt, I'm going to pass this over and I'm going to read this word for word from here. So Bob has said, and it's around Gascorp, The 2014 options refinement report identified the best option. Why was that changed for stage 2? Now, Bob has further commented regarding Gascorp that if they have an easement for Southern Link Road, is this all about cost?
No, is the clear answer. We use a number of criteria to inform our choice. Obviously, cost is one of those, but it's only one of many criteria that we use to inform our decisions. So, simple answer is no. But we also understand that there is some sentiment out there that we are trying to, engage with developers and provide a better outcome for developers. That is not the case. We treat everyone equally through this process, and we understand it is a really difficult process for the community and stakeholders. So we are clear. We hope that we have documented the process very clearly in our options report.
And please feel free to reach out to us after today's event. The email address and telephone number, web links are all currently up on display. We are open for public consultation until the 16th of September. We do want to hear from you. We do want your feedback. And as I've spoken with Ed, this will not be the last time that we come out, but any feedback we receive helps us for the next stage in further defining the corridor. So I've got another question here that's come through, and I'll pass this to Matt again. What measures have been put in place for noise and safety? At a height of 4 metres in front of our property, this will have a large impact on us.
So I think this is more around noise than safety. So and I think it's very similar to the previous question around noise impacts. So one of the mitigation options for us is a noise wall, and that could be a 4 metre wall, could be taller than that. And so that noise wall would be designed to, withstand quite a number of years of operation, and it is a responsibility of Transport to maintain it on a regular basis. So I hope that answers the question. In terms of safety, we will be building all our structures to a safe standard and to the Australian standards.
Excellent. And look, thanks Joseph from Endeavour Energy. He's just actually given us a heads up in the chat to let us know that Endeavour Energy are installing major trunk infrastructure as it's needed to service the Mamre Road precinct. Some of this is within the Southern Link Road corridor. Great news. There is so much happening out there at the moment, and we are working with other utilities and other government agencies to ensure that we're providing a safe and efficient and effective way for you guys to get around the network. Now I've got a question that's come through here, and I might pass this over to you, Ed. Is Transport exploring the option to accelerate any portion of Southern Link Road following the rezoning of the Mamre Road precinct in 2020?
So in terms of the rezoning was over 850 hectares of industrial land. Then what happens after the rezoning is essentially a process of each individual property owner essentially considering whether they want to change the existing use. And there's a lot of proposals for development, and we're already seeing the early works. You can see it, on the western side of Mamre Road. What we're doing at the moment is we're planning for the Southern Link Road. One of the things that we have to do is to see what is the build-up of traffic that's generated by each of those individual developments. It's really important that there is an alignment obviously identified. We've talked today about the project's environmental impact assessment. We need to go through that before there's any legal authority for construction. So we are a little way off, so we can't sort of rule things in or out. One of the things that the environmental impact assessment does do is it does describe staging if that's something that we're looking at. What we're talking about is a 7.5 kilometre piece of road. That's a very, very long piece of road. So, staging is certainly always a consideration.
Thank you. Someone's made a comment about the time frame for responses to submissions for this project. Look, we're hoping to have our submissions report completed in the next 6 to 9 months, and we'll have that back out on public display. So when we do a submissions report, it's not just responding to the submissions, but it's making any tweaks to the alignment as a result of the community consultation. So sometimes there can be a little bit of a delay because we want to factor in your feedback, and if that means we need to adjust the alignment or adjust anything that we're currently got in the options report, that is what we look at. But do you have anything to add?
Beck, I just wanted to also mention there's been some questions around the preferred option. The video that we actually showed at the start of today's presentation, that's based off an engineering design. So I would encourage anyone who's online, spend the moment to watch the video. Sometimes you might want to pause and have a bit of a look. And the other thing that we featured today was the portal. If you open up and look at the portal, it's got a couple of, like they call them, swipes, before and after looks. They really are quite helpful in terms of trying to visualise what is proposed in terms of the change. So I just wanted to, if I could, just encourage people, have a look at the video. Pause, it's based on engineering design, but also have a look at those swipes.
No, and that's what it's all about, is we want to give you guys, or give the community the option to see, to try and visualise what the growth is going to be out there. I've got one more question for you, Matt, from Bob. Why can't the new Stage 2 road go next to the southern side of the new rail freight corridor? So why doesn't the corridor follow the Western Sydney Freight Line?
Yeah, thanks for that question. We looked at 3 major options as part of our assessment, and they are listed in the options report. What we did consider was pushing it further to the north, closer to the Western Sydney Freight Line alignment, and bearing in mind that that piece of infrastructure will not be built for a little while yet. So what it did do is impact on additional residents and properties. So there is a balancing act in terms of the amount of impact to property owners and what benefits we get from each of the alignments, and I hope that there's enough information in the options report to answer that question. But we're more than happy to have a more detailed discussion at a later date.
Not a problem. I can see there's a couple of questions here regarding property acquisition. As Matt indicated before, we have been out and spoken to all impacted property owners, and we've gone out with our personal property managers of acquisitions from Transport. These people work under guidance from the Centre for Property Acquisition and have passed on their details to be a point of contact for all impacted property owners. Anybody who is impacted should be contacting those people for further questions about that property acquisition process.
But could I just add, so it's obviously a challenging time for the property owners. I guess, could I just make a couple of points?
Mm-hmm.
So Transport is not wanting to start negotiations for acquisition. So that's the first point that I'd like to make. The reason why we go out with these specialists is so that if those owners have questions about the process in the future, they can have those questions answered, excuse me. But I just really want to repeat and make it very clear that Transport's not wanting to start acquisition at the moment. There is time. It's really important that property owners know that this is a process of consultation around the preferred alignment. It's not like the government's turning up tomorrow to say we're buying your land.
Yep.
If I could just
emphasise
that.
And I noticed there is a question there about someone, do I need to disclose the potential buyers that Transport's plans? As they do the check through council, that would come up.
Yeah, so as you know, most people who have been through a process of buying land would know, a purchaser is very strongly encouraged to make inquiries to Transport for New South Wales, to councils and to other utility authorities in terms of future plans for the area. As we said at the introduction of today's session, we're going through the process of consulting on a preferred alignment, and that information is obviously publicly available. So a vendor is under no obligation in terms of what they put in their contract for sale, but this information is available. And because there's no process of acquisition underway, we're happy to take questions from anyone in the local area, whether they're operating a business, whether they're owning properties, whether they're purchasing properties.
Not a problem. Just having a look, I notice that we have just reached time. If we don't get to all your questions today, please email us. We'd love to hear from you and we can actually respond back to you. So Matt, I'll just quickly pass this one to you. Why is the corridor road feeding into Wargrove Road that is only 2 lanes and not linked to Mini Link Road?
Yeah, look, it's a good question, and one of the other pieces of work that Transport has embarked on as part of the planning for Southern Link Road is looking at the road network strategy for all of Western Sydney employment area, and so that would include a number of upgrades, not just a new corridor Southern Link Road that we're talking about today, but means that we're looking at upgrades of roads such as Mamre Road, for instance, and the missing link on Erskine Park Link Road. So there are a number of upgrades that we are planning for or strategically looking at right now that will help with traffic efficiency in the future.
Thank you. David, I'm going to finish with your question as our last one for today, and it's about the time frame, and I understand the uncertainty of this, but David's saying, is there any concept of time? Are we looking at 2 years, 5 years, 7 years for construction to start?
Sure. So just to recap on a couple of things that we've said so far. So firstly, we're consulting on a preferred option.
Mm-hmm.
Following that, there'll be the development of the design and the environmental impact assessment. We've also talked about the fact that governments have obviously got a lot of competing priorities, whether they're schools, whether they're hospitals, whether they're railway lines, whether they're roads. So what we do is we prepare a business case in line with Treasury requirements for consideration. And in the event that there's a decision to proceed, there's still more work that needs to be done. And, most people would be aware of this. So we talked a little bit about acquisition of land.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously, I think we had a comment from a gentleman from Endeavour Energy. We need to make sure that all the pipes and the poles and all those sorts of things are moved into their ultimate location. So no one is talking about any construction activity of Southern Link Road in a time frame like 2 years or anything like that. I know this can come across as, why does it take so long? But we're really talking about planning for the development of the area over many, many decades. So please register for updates. We'll provide those to you, but I'm afraid I'm not going to give you like a specific time frame.
Not a problem. Thanks, Ed. Thought it was worth an ask. That brings our session to a close for today. So I'd like to thank Matt and Ed for being here today and answering your questions. I thank you for attending the session and participating and putting your questions in the Q&A. Up on the screen at the moment is the contact us, and I can't stress enough, we want to hear from you. If you've got comments, give us a call, 1800 717 688. Send us an email and lodge a submission about the preferred option, Southern Link Road at transport.nsw.gov.au. Use that same email address to register for email updates about the project. The website there, nsroads.work/Southern Link Road, will take you to our website where you'll find all the information as well as a recording of this session today. Our interactive portal is also located on that website, and as Ed has suggested, use the swipers and see how we imagine the area and the road upgrade will look in the future. The mail address is there as well as our translating link panel, so please contact us. We'd like to hear from you. Once again, thank you for attending today, and I look forward to speaking to you in the future.